Good evening, I'm Ethan Karp. Our first story tonight concerns the Clean Air Act of 1970 and the amendments made to it in 1990. For our viewers watching tonight, the Clean Air Act of 1970 was a bill passed by Congress in 1970 by unanimous vote. The bill authorized resulted in a major shift in the federal government's role in air pollution control. This legalization authorized the development of comprehensive federal and state regulations to limit emissions from both stationary sources, such as factories, and mobile sources, such as cars and trucks. The role establishing these standards fell to the EPA to regulate and report to the federal government if any private industry was or wasn't meeting the standards in all the major and minor cities in the country. Then in 1990, the bill received edits to apply amendments that also gave the EPA authority to regulate the amount of industrial chemicals that were being purposely or accidentally dumped into the country's water cycle, like sulfur dioxide and oxides of nitrogen, resulting in acid rain. Ever since the Clean Air Act was made into law, it has helped reduce mercury emissions, which is an especially potent greenhouse gas, by 45%, reduced the lead content in gasoline, which has cut the lead air pollution by 92% since 1980. The Clean Air Act also spurred industries to adopt cutting-edge solutions to reduce pollution from power plants, factories, cars, and in the process created new jobs and strengthened our economy. When the law was being passed in 1970, there was skepticism from then Tennessee Senator and man telling Josh for the 10th time not to hit Johnny, Howard Baker, who was worried that the new regulations wouldn't damage private industry. But the owner of one of the biggest auto manufacturing companies in the country at the time, a man who just changed his profile picture for the 8th time since Monday, Edward Cole, also reassured him that they would be able to accommodate. The reason we are talking about the Clean Air Act of tonight concerns the now former head of the EPA, a man replying, "Why, yes, Your Honor, I did eat that cookie," Scott Pruitt. He resigned his job amid scandals and accusations of corruption brought before him. But before he was head of the EPA, however, he was a Republican Attorney General for Oklahoma who had strong connections to the fossil fuel industry and had contributed sums of money that totaled over $300,000. He had always been a person who supported bills that would ease regulations on the very pollutants that the Clean Air Act was meant to protect. The Trump administration has done much more damage to the environment than that, however. A while back, Donald Trump, the current president, announced that the U.S. was leaving the Paris Climate Accords, signed by every other nation in the world, other than Syria, who's in the middle of a civil war, so they don't really count, and Nicaragua. The environmental problems facing the world are real, and they are getting closer. But despite the science, there are enough people in the government who refuse to believe science that it has been extremely hard, especially in recent years, to pass any environmental protection law. The nationwide Obama-proposed carbon tax failed to get through Congress, and now the Clean Air Act is being considered for repeal. This is a warning to voters themselves. Call your representatives. Tell them how you feel about the environmental problems that the country is facing. I'm Ethan Karp, and we'll see you next time.